Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video we are going to be continuing our fly press tooling series here that I'm doing here on YouTube, and basically tooling up the fly press that I bought. I'm going to put all of these videos in a singular playlist, and that'll be linked up in the description down below, so be sure to check that out to see what type of tooling we've made for the fly press so far. So the fly press I have is a Sweeney & Blocksage number 6 fly press, and it's pretty cool fly press in the fact that it has a large opening. So it's got about 14 inches of daylight in between the dies at its full height. Only problem with that is when the dies are fully closed, I still have about, I don't know, probably 6 inches or so, 6 to 8 inches of height right in there above the bottom of the fly press there. So that means whatever I do, I have to raise up on blocks to put tooling up close enough that the ram can actually do any work on the piece. So I've been needing to make a bottom tool. So that brings us to what we're going to be working on today, a bottom tool holder, if you will. This piece here is 7 inches long, right about, and about 3.5 inches wide and 1.25 inches thick. I also have some two blocks that have been, basically I've had these for a while. These are mild steel. This is all mild steel. And these were, again, these are roughly, those about 1 3/8" by, about 3.5 inches long, and probably by 2 inches wide there. And so basically I'm going to stand these up on end, and I'm going to get that welded to that right like so. And what this will do is this will kind of create a bit of a bridge, or almost like a bridge anvil for me, for my tooling to be able to sit down in here. It'll have the benefit that if I do any punching over this, I can clear out the slugs or whatever from underneath, and it brings my tooling up a lot closer. So I'm slowly closing that gap up. By the time you add the top tooling in here, the height of it, and the height of this, it'll come out just perfect at the bottom end of my ram travel. So that's what we're working on right now. I've already gotten this centered up, as you can see here. The next step in this process, we're going to go run over to the drill press, and we're going to drill a pilot hole. I have a Powertherm, I have a Hypertherm PowerMax 65 plasma cutter that I'm actually going to cut this square hole in. The only problem that I have is that the plasma cutter is not meant to pierce 1.25 inch thick material. It's only really rated to pierce, say, 5/8 inch thick material, and anything above 5/8, say like your 1 inch stock and up, it's supposed to go from edge cutting. So we've got to create an edge, and we're going to do that by drilling a hole through the center of this, a little pilot hole, and then we can use the plasma cutter to cut the rest. So without further ado, let's get right over to the drill press and get this whole party started. Okie dokes, there we have it. I got a hole cut into this. It did end up a little bit oversized, more so on the bottom than on the top, but because of that it's going to have a little bit of wiggle room in here, which will be okay. It doesn't have to be perfectly machine tight fit because this is just a press. There's not any pounding that's going to be going on here, so it's not like this is going to have a tendency to want to jump or walk up out of the hole. So that should be okay, or at least hopefully it will. If not, there's some things we could do in the future to put another surface on that, weld it up a little tighter, and clean it up to where it'll fit much nicer, have a much nicer fit. But it really is nice to have the plasma cutter to be able to cut a big hole like that through such a thick piece of steel. If you didn't have that, another alternative would be to actually drill a hole, drill slightly under a 1-inch diameter hole, and then file in the corners square, if you will. Just use a file and file it. I took the lazy, sloppy route and just went ahead and plasma cut a hole in it, and by hand there. So now that I've got everything ground up, I'm going to get it all lined up here, and then we're going to get this welded on. Now, generally speaking, on something this thick, you can usually get away with not having to clamp anything down because of all the weight in the block. The weld doesn't pull so rapidly on it. It doesn't cool so, it doesn't have a tendency to pull. Like with thin materials, it'll pull almost instantly. The thicker it is, gives you a little bit more time to get tacks on other corners. But generally speaking, it's a good practice to just put a welder's clamp on there, keep it clamped up. So without further ado, let's grab this, let's get this thing welded up. I'm going to put a couple tacks on it first, and then I'll put some more substantial beads on this. Again, not the best weld bead ever that I've ever done, but it's it'll be good for this purpose. Again, this is just a support for the actual tooling and the work that's going to be done. So there's not going to be too much lateral forces on this, so this should be fine. It doesn't have to be super structural or anything. It just needs to keep the blocks from falling off of itself, basically. It just stops you from having to put blocks up here and then keep, you know, stacking stuff up. It just helps out a little bit in that department. So get this block squared up. I'm going to go ahead and add my clamp. By the way, these Husky clamps, again, not a sponsor, but these Husky clamps with this quick release sliding mechanism here they're one of my favorite clamps here to use for fabrication or any sort of welding I might want to do. They are my go-to for C-clamps. They're just so nice to be able to loosen it a little bit, press that slide lever, and just slide it right down. I'll put a link in the description, an affiliate link, so be advised, I do get a small kickback at no additional cost to you. if you do click through that link and buy anything. But if you just want to go research them, you can click through the link and just view and see, see what these clamps are all about, and probably pick them up at your local hardware store. That's where I got these at. Alright, got them blocks welded on. Woo-wee. Flip that up just like so, and those are all put together. Like I said, not some of my best welding in the world, but again, it doesn't have to be. As long as it keeps the blocks on, keeps them in place, that's all that matters. And it most certainly will do that. So now it'll be easy for me to make up tooling to fit in here and just drop it right down in this hole and chuck in the other opposite end of that tooling up into the fly press ram and go to town. So once this cools down, let's go over to the fly press and see how this thing fits, and I can show you kind of what I'm talking about right there. Okay, so here we are at my fly press. As you can see, there is a ton of daylight height here, even with the die all the way inserted. I've got a total of about 11 3/4 of an inch without anything down here. And so I'm going to show you why it was important for me to actually build this die. I'm going to go ahead and spin this thing down here for a hot minute. And I'll show you guys what I was talking about. So all the way down, we still have an additional, so even with this in here, we have an additional 5 1/4 inches that we would still have play to have to come down with. So that was the whole reason for making this item right here up on blocks like you see it as of right now. So I did find, now I've made up another die. I made up a bottom die, or a corresponding die to this flat die. And I'll spin this up out of the way real quick and put that in there. And so I did do that, and if I spin this all the way down, what you'll find here is, see, it still doesn't quite come up there enough. So it could come up just a wee bit higher. Reason for that being is originally when I selected this material, I thought I was going to put it on a bolt like this and do round, but I changed it instead. So I had to stick with the material I had. So that's not a big deal. We just take a scrap piece of 3/8 inch plate, just spin this up out of the way. That is one problem about these fly presses. You do have to spend time spinning them up out of the way to get them out of your way. It's not just an automatic return system here. So I do have to put a little 3/8 plate on the bottom here. Now, some of you might already be asking, so Roy, are you going to go ahead and bolt this down through these T-slots? And I'm not. I'm not going to bolt anything down as of yet. I may end up welding this to this plate and then putting some slots in here so I can put bolts in it. But as of right now, I want to have the option to be able to change its position or its orientation fairly easily. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So right now I can very easily square this up to the top die. But also, if I loosen that top die and say it's much better for me to be able to be turned like so, okay? I want to just tighten that up like so. Then I can just rotate that as well. And I'm not rigid, so to speak, which is a good thing. Again, I'll be using this bottom tool predominantly in operations where it's going to have a lot of force going down, but not so much lateral forces. So I don't need to hold this particular tool down, you know, super heavy, right? And so now I can crush whatever I want in this nice and easy with this nice tool stand here. And again, I can just rotate it back, or really any direction now under the fly press, and use it to my advantage, which that's what I really like about this. I like the ability to be able to line everything up quickly and efficiently and get my dies exactly where they need to be, tighten everything up, and I am good to go. And then I could just start dropping stuff in and out. Obviously, I've got flat dies in this right now currently, but we will be making some other dies in the future, so be sure to come back to the channel and check that out, or check the playlist when you get the moment, and click on the videos that interest you in that playlist. But we're going to do some fullering dies, we'll do some forging with those, butcher dies, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of goodies in that playlist around fly presses and the tooling, and you know, what I think of it. So anyways, that's it for today. Thank you everyone so much for watching this video. I know it was kind of a longer build video, but I do appreciate your viewership. If you did enjoy this content and you want to support it, a great way of doing that is checking out our website over at blacksmithpdfs.com, and consider purchasing a blacksmithing blank and or some power hammer plans or something like that. So one great way. And then another great way of supporting this content that you see here on YouTube that we put out completely for free is checking out that join button. Click that join button and get all sorts of special discounts and things like that, just like some of these fine folks that have been rolling across the screen. So that's it. God bless each and every last one of you. And until next time, when we build some more tooling, we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.